The alien admirals challenged the atmosphere aboard the alien flagship was tense, filled with the energy of anticipation. The alien admiral, Korath, stood at the front of a vast war room, his towering figure casting a long shadow over the control panels. His sharp, angular face remained unreadable, but his eyes burned with the fire of certainty. The invasion of Earth had been in the works for years, and now the moment was finally here. Korath, a seasoned leader of his people, had led countless campaigns across the galaxy. His warriors were unmatched in battle, and their advanced technology made them nearly invincible. Earth had always seemed like a small, insignificant world or place with primitive technology and a history of struggles that would surely make it an easy target. He believed the humans were no different from the other races they had conquered. But now, as he prepared for the final stages of the invasion, he couldn't shake the thought. Earth would be an easy conquest. As his officers gathered around the large holographic map of Earth displayed before them, Korath's voice boomed with confidence. "We are on the brink of victory. Earth is nothing but a myth to us. These humans, our enemies, are weak. They lack the strength to fight back, and they lack the technology to stop us." Korath's cold, commanding presence silenced any hint of doubt in the room. His warriors, standing in neat rows behind him, nodded in agreement. They had always seen humans as a species to be crushed easily underfoot. Korath was not one for hesitation, and his entire fleet was poised for what he expected would be a quick and decisive victory. He stepped forward, his eyes scanning the holographic map of Earth. The blue planet stood before him, so small, yet holding so much promise for his people's future. The Admiral's hands rested firmly on the control panel, the metallic touch of the surface cold under his fingertips. He was ready to strike. "Prepare the fleet for the descent," he ordered. "The humans will fall before us, and their world will be ours." But there was something in the air, an uneasy stillness that Korath couldn't ignore for a brief moment. He considered that perhaps the humans were more than what they appeared to be. Yet, just as quickly, he dismissed the thought. After all, they were still so primitive in comparison to his own species, still trapped in the iron grip of their limitations. "We will land and take their cities," Korath muttered, his mind already racing through the battle tactics. "Once we make the first strike, their defenses will crumble." His second-in-command, a warrior named Shira, stepped forward. "Admiral, the fleet is ready. We've locked onto their major cities and military bases. Our technology will give us the upper hand, and Earth's primitive defenses won't even be able to stand against us. There is no way they could stop us." Korath gave a brief nod, his sharp features softening slightly with satisfaction. He had fought countless battles, and with this final campaign, he would ensure that the humans would never again pose a threat. To his people, the thought of the planet's cities falling to the ground in ruin made his chest swell with pride. "We will show them the power of our empire," Korath declared, his voice low and dangerous. "The humans are a myth, nothing more than a story told by the weak. They will be crushed beneath our boots, and their world will become a new world for us." But as Korath made his final preparations for the assault, a thought lingered in his mind. Could he truly underestimate the humans? He shook the thought away, focusing instead on the immediate objective. The humans were too fragmented, too small. In number, their technology was a joke in comparison to the weapons his fleet possessed. They had no chance. No way out. The fleet readied itself for descent. Ships the size of cities floated just above the Earth's atmosphere, their engines roaring to life as they prepared to launch their assault. Korath watched the view from the control room, the Earth below him becoming larger and more defined. The planets, the stars, they all seemed to align as his moment of glory approached. The fleet commander signaled, "Admiral, we're ready for the descent. The invasion will begin in just a few moments." Korath felt his pulse quicken with anticipation. He had planned for this. His fleet had trained for this. Nothing would stop them. The time for words was over. The time for war had arrived. The Admiral's hands clenched into fists as he stepped forward, preparing to lead his fleet to victory. "Let's show them what happens when you underestimate us," Korath said with a twisted smile. "Let's end the myth of humanity once and for all." The ships descended, cutting through the clouds, leaving the vastness of space behind. Korath's eyes glowed with anticipation. The invasion had begun, and with it, the start of humanity's end. Asterisk, the first shockwaver. Alien fleet descended rapidly, piercing through Earth's atmosphere with a force that sent shockwaves through the planet. Korath, standing tall in the command center of his flagship, watched as his forces made their descent towards Earth. His mind was filled with thoughts of conquest and glory. But what he didn't expect was the sudden interruption of his confident thoughts as the alien ships neared Earth's surface. The expected chaos did not unfold. The alien ships touched down in major cities across the globe, their massive forms landing in plumes of dust and debris. Korath was prepared for the immediate destruction, confident that Earth's military forces would crumble in the face of his superior technology. But instead of a quick surrender, something startling began to happen. Human resistance surged. It came not from the soldiers Korath expected, but from the civilians, ordinary people with no advanced weaponry, no training in military tactics, but armed with raw determination and resourcefulness. As the alien ships made landfall, human rebels attacked from every corner, using their environment to their advantage. They didn't use sophisticated alien technology. Instead, they used everyday objects as weapons. Improvised bombs, fire traps, and ambushes in narrow streets. These were not tactics Korath had ever anticipated from such a primitive species. Korath's eyes widened in disbelief as reports began flooding in. "What is this?" he growled. "This is not supposed to be happening. These humans are supposed to be weak." The commander of his ground forces, Shira, spoke up with concern. "Admiral, they are not responding as we anticipated. The resistance is unlike anything we've faced before. We're being attacked from every direction, and we've suffered losses." Korath's fist slammed down on the control panel in frustration. His once calm and confident demeanor began to crack. He had never expected this level of resistance from the humans. It was as if they were preparing for this invasion long before he had even arrived. "What do you mean, losses?" he demanded. "We outnumber them, and their weapons are primitive. What could possibly be going wrong?" The fleet commander hesitated before responding. "They are using tactics we've never encountered before. It's as if they know how we fight. They're fighting on their terms, not ours. It's disorienting, Admiral." Korath's face darkened as he gripped the edge of the table, his eyes narrowing. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. The humans were supposed to be nothing more than a myth, as he had said earlier. But what if the myth was real? What if the humans were more than he had given them credit for? His thoughts were interrupted as a sudden explosion rocked his flagship. The floor shook beneath his feet, and alarms began blaring across the room. Korath looked at the console to see that one of his own ships had been hit. The humans had somehow managed to infiltrate the ranks, launching a series of coordinated attacks that breached the alien fleet's defense perimeter. Admiral, we've sustained damage to the port side of the fleet. Multiple breaches. His officer reported. Korath's rage flared as he processed the information. How is this possible? He spat. They have no advanced technology. How could they do this to us? The realization hit him like a blow. The humans weren't relying on technology. Alone, they were relying on something far more dangerous: adaptability and resourcefulness. They had turned their weaknesses into their greatest strength. The alien forces were relying on overwhelming power and superior technology, but the humans had turned the tables by fighting with everything they had, using the terrain, the environment, and every ounce of their ingenuity to survive. The Admiral's pride, which had been his armor against the unknown, began to shatter. His arrogance was blinding him, and now, for the first time, Korath was forced to face the truth. The humans were not just myths. They were real, and they were dangerous. More dangerous than he had ever imagined. Prepare for full-scale retaliation, Korath roared, his voice booming across the command center. Activate all weapons and defenses. Bring everything we have to bear. We will crush them. They are no match for our might. But deep down, Korath couldn't shake the growing unease. If the humans could resist like this with their limited resources, what could they do when they were fully prepared? What kind of power had Korath truly underestimated? Humanity's hidden strength, the chaos of battle, continued to rage as the alien forces found themselves overwhelmed by the tenacity of humanity. Korath's flagship, which had once seemed invincible, was now under constant fire from Earth's defenses. Alien warships, designed to be impenetrable, were suddenly vulnerable to clever traps and tactical maneuvers orchestrated by humans, who had never been in a space war before. The air was thick with confusion, and the alien soldiers were beginning to panic. The humans weren't fighting to conquer, they were fighting to survive. Korath stood at the helm of his flagship, watching the events unfold through the large view screen. The Earth was now in complete chaos, and the alien forces had expected to dominate within hours. Instead, the humans were holding their ground, striking back with surprising ferocity and creativity. Korath had underestimated their ability to adapt. He slammed his fist against the console, his rage building. This is impossible. We are the superior force. How can these humans stand against us? Korath's voice echoed in the command room, his eyes wild with frustration. His second in command, Shira, walked up to him, her face tense. Admiral, the humans. They're adapting faster than we expected. They've modified their technology, using our own methods against us. Their military tactics are unlike anything we've encountered. Korath's eyes widened in disbelief. Modified their technology? Impossible. How could they? They have weapons now, Shira continued. Weapons that we can't disable. They've infiltrated our systems, and they're hitting us where it hurts the most, our supply lines. We've been forced to retreat several of our ships. Korath was silent for a moment, trying to grasp the enormity of the situation. His mind raced. How could the humans have turned their weaknesses into this kind of strength? He had thought of them as primitive beings, their technology far behind the alien forces. But now they were outsmarting his fleet at every turn. Their ability to adapt to his attacks and to use their environment to their advantage made them a far greater threat than he had anticipated. A report flashed up on the control screen: more alien ships had fallen to human ambushes. It was clear now that the humans weren't just defending. They were counterattacking with precise coordination and intelligence. They had learned quickly, and they were using their knowledge of the land, their own technology, and the element of surprise to fight back in ways Korath couldn't have imagined. "Admiral," Shira said, her voice low, "we may have underestimated them, but they're not just holding their ground anymore. They're winning." Korath's face tightened in frustration, but he refused to accept defeat. "No," he growled. "We are the superior species. We cannot lose to these creatures. The humans may have their surprises, but we will show them the true power of our empire." A new strategy, the alien forces regrouped for their next phase of attack. Korath had made a decision. They needed to shift tactics. This fight could no longer be won with brute strength alone. The aliens had superior technology, but the humans had proved that adaptation was just as powerful, if not more. It was time to make a new plan, one that took into account the unexpected cunning of their human adversaries. Korath ordered his fleet to retreat for a temporary regrouping, and as the alien ships pulled back, Korath began to reassess the battle. The humans were using guerrilla tactics, fighting from within their cities. Their civilians participating in the defense, and their technology was being adapted at an alarming rate. But there was one thing Korath knew for certain: humanity had weaknesses that he could exploit. "We will strike at their heart," Korath said, looking out at the stars, his eyes glowing with determination. "They think they know our tactics, but they haven't seen what we are truly capable of. We will disrupt their unity. We will hit their cities and force them to submit. Once we break their spirit, we will have victory." Shira, ever loyal, nodded. "We can make them fear us. We'll target their key locations, their leaders. Without their core, they will crumble." But Korath's thoughts lingered on something else, something deeper. If humans had learned to fight so intelligently, could there be something else they were hiding? Was there something they had yet to reveal that could turn the tide even further in their favor? What if their greatest weapon was something Korath hadn't anticipated? Before he could think further, an alert flashed across the screen. "Admiral, we have an unidentified object approaching at high speed." Korath's heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" The officer studied the screen. "It appears to be a human ship, but it's unlike anything we've seen. It's smaller, more agile, and it's coming straight for us." "What is the meaning of this?" Korath demanded. "What are the humans up to now?" The officer paused, his eyes wide in shock. "It's not just a ship, it's a weapon, and it's heading straight for the heart of our fleet." Korath felt a cold sweat form on the back of his neck. What had the humans unleashed now? Asterisk the hidden weapon. The tension aboard Korath's flagship was palpable. The alien admiral paced back and forth, his mind racing with the realization that the humans were not the myth he had believed them to be. Their resourcefulness and willingness to fight back had begun to unravel the very foundation of his invasion plan. The officers around him remained silent, knowing better than to interrupt his train of thought. They had never seen him so on edge. It had always been the aliens who held the advantage till now. Admiral Shira said, her voice cutting through the thick silence. "We need to respond to this new threat. The human weapon is drawing closer, and it's unlike anything we've encountered before. We must act quickly before it reaches the core of our fleet." Korath stopped pacing and turned to face her, his eyes burning with intensity. "Tell me more about this weapon," he demanded, his voice low but filled with fury. "How can we not know what the humans are capable of?" Shira pressed a few buttons on the control panel, bringing up the holographic image of the new weapon on the screen. It was a sleek, dark ship smaller and more agile than any of the alien warships. But it wasn't just a ship, it was a weapon designed to tear through their defenses. The human technology wasn't advanced in the same way as theirs, but the ingenuity behind it was undeniable. This ship is equipped with a new type of energy weapon, Shira explained. It seems to have the ability to penetrate our shields, something we've never encountered before. We can't afford to underestimate. Korath's mind raced. The sheer arrogance he had carried into the battle was now being replaced by a chilling sense of urgency. The humans had developed a weapon that was capable of defeating their superior technology. If they didn't act fast, this could be the end for them. The invasion, the years of preparation, they could all be undone in a single strike. The alien admiral clenched his fists. Prepare the fleet. We will counterattack with everything we have. We will not allow these humans to defy us any longer. We've underestimated them once, and I won't make that mistake again. The unexpected sacrifices the alien fleet scrambled to adapt to the new human weapon. The skies above Earth grew darker. Ships moved into position, readying their defenses, but they couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change. Something bigger than they had ever imagined. On the ground, the human resistance continued to grow. Jack and his team of soldiers had learned much about the alien technology through captured equipment. They had reverse-engineered some of the alien weapons and used them against the invaders. The battlefield, once filled with the sounds of alien gunfire and explosions, now echoed with human triumph. But there was a hidden threat they hadn't accounted for. Jack had been working with a group of engineers to develop a countermeasure for the alien fleet's energy weapons. He knew they couldn't win this war with conventional tactics alone. The only way to turn the tide was by using their ingenuity to fight back. The plan was risky, but Jack had no choice. The weapon would either work or humanity would fall.
We're
ready, Jack said, his voice steady but filled with anticipation as he looked at the device in front of him. This is the final piece. The plan was simple. Jack's team had created a device capable of emitting a pulse that would disrupt the alien fleet's energy weapon. If they could get close enough to one of the larger ships, they could trigger it, throwing the fleet into disarray. But there was a catch. The device needed to be placed directly on the flagship, which was currently orbiting the Earth. To do so, one of them would have to board the ship, make their way to the core of the enemy vessel, and plant the device, sacrificing their own lives in the process. Jack volunteered. He knew the risks, but he also knew that humanity needed this victory. If he failed, Earth might not have another chance. Jack, don't do this, one of his comrades pleaded, holding onto his arm as he prepared to board the shuttle. We need you here, leading us. You can't. I'm not doing this for me, Jack interrupted, his voice calm but firm. I'm doing this for all of us. If this works, we have a chance at winning. If I don't, they'll destroy everything we fought for. With a final look at his team, Jack boarded the shuttle, the doors closing behind him. His heart pounded as the shuttle made its way toward the alien flagship. The stakes had never been higher. This wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a fight for the future. The heart of the storm, the hours, seemed to stretch into an eternity as Jack's shuttle hurtled toward the heart of the alien flagship. The silence inside the small craft was oppressive, broken only by the steady hum of the engines. Jack's thoughts were a whirlwind, each one filled with the weight of what he was about to do. He knew the risks. The chances of success were slim, but if there was even a slight chance to stop the invasion, to protect the people he loved, it was worth it. As the shuttle approached the massive alien ship, Jack felt his pulse quicken. The flagship loomed ahead, a dark behemoth in space. It had the power to wipe out entire cities with a single strike, but now, for the first time, it was vulnerable. The humans had found a way to turn the tide, and Jack was the one chosen to make it happen. He gripped the controls tightly, knowing that once he boarded the ship, there would be no turning back. He couldn't afford to fail inside the flagship. The alien forces were preparing for another wave of human resistance. Korath, the alien admiral, had taken the human assault more seriously than he ever expected. His fleet was battered, but he refused to believe that it was possible to lose. To the humans, they had just begun their invasion. Earth was theirs for the taking. Or so he thought. A sharp alarm blared throughout the ship, and a voice over the intercom confirmed Jack's worst fear. The humans had infiltrated the ship. They had already planted several devices throughout, using their crude but effective methods to break through the alien defenses. Korath slammed his fist against the console, his fury mounting. "Do not let them get close to the core," Korath ordered. "Shut down their access points, now." Meanwhile, Jack was making his way through the alien ship's hallways, a stealthy figure in the shadows. His heart raced with each step as he navigated the maze of unfamiliar corridors. The alien technology around him seemed more advanced than anything he had ever seen. Strange lights flickered above, casting eerie glows on the metal walls. Yet, in the face of it all, Jack's focus remained unshaken. The map he'd memorized was outdated, and every turn felt like a new challenge. He could hear the echoes of alien soldiers nearby, but he kept moving forward, each step bringing him closer to the core. If he could just plant the device, everything would change. As Jack reached a large door leading to the core, the air seemed to thicken, as if the ship itself was aware of his presence. He pressed his back against the wall, listening intently. He knew there would be guards on the other side. It wasn't just about getting in anymore, it was about surviving long enough to plant the device and destroy the ship from within. His hand hovered over the detonator, his fingers tingling with the anticipation of what was to come. He hadn't come this far to fail. There were too many lives at stake, too much to lose. Suddenly, the door in front of him hissed open, and two alien soldiers stepped into the hallway, their weapons aimed directly at him. Jack's breath caught in his throat as he froze, realizing his luck had run out. But before the soldiers could react, a loud explosion rocked the hallway. Jack flinched and ducked, using the moment of confusion to sprint toward the entrance to the core. His heart was pounding in his chest as he ran, the adrenaline pushing him forward, faster than he had ever moved before. The soldiers were scrambling, looking for him, but Jack was already inside, the door closing behind him with a thud. As he made his way to the central control panel, his mind raced through the steps he had memorized. The device had to be placed at the core of the ship, where the alien's power source was stored. If he succeeded, the pulse it would send out could cripple the entire fleet. But if he failed, if he was courted, would all be over. Jack's fingers danced over the control panel, quickly setting up the device. His body was tense, every movement calculated. Sweat dripped from his brow as the timer on the device began to tick down. It was a race against time now. Come on, dot dot dot. Jack muttered under his breath as the countdown continued. He could hear footsteps echoing down the hallway, growing louder. He had mere seconds left before the aliens would storm the room. With a final push, the device clicked into place. The hum of the device filled the room, followed by a flash of light. Jack turned and sprinted toward the door just as the alarms began blaring. He could feel the vibrations beneath his feet as the ship started to shake. The device was working. But now there was no time to celebrate. He needed to escape. The escape and the unexpected betrayal. The ship groaned as Jack sprinted down the narrow corridors, the floor beneath him shaking with every step. The timer on the device was ticking down relentlessly. His heart raced as his footsteps echoed against the metal walls, each second feeling like an eternity. The alarms blared in the distance, signaling that the alien forces were aware of his presence. There was no turning back now. The device was planted, and his only hope was to escape before the entire flagship was torn apart. His breath came in ragged gasps as he rounded another corner, barely avoiding a group of alien soldiers who had just entered the hall. They had their weapons drawn, eyes scanning for any sign of movement. Jack pressed himself against the wall, holding his breath, praying they wouldn't see him. The aliens were too close. One wrong move, and it would all be over. The soldiers passed without noticing him, but the close call made Jack's pulse spike even higher. He had to move faster. He pushed himself off the wall and continued down the corridor, his mind laser-focused on the path ahead. But as he neared the exit, he heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps behind him. "Stop right there," a voice called from behind him. Jack spun around, his body moving instinctively. Before he could react, a heavy hand grabbed his shoulder, pulling him back. He fought against the grip, but the strength of the alien was overwhelming. His weapon was still in its holster, but he knew he wouldn't have time to draw it before. The alien soldier disarmed him. "I told you to stop." The alien soldier snarled, tightening his grip. The voice was unmistakably a commander, one of Korath's officers. It was the same officer who had dismissed the humans as a joke, as a myth. Jack had seen him earlier in the battle. The officer's eyes gleamed with fury as he studied Jack, his stance solid and unyielding. "You think you can destroy our fleet so easily," he sneered. "You've done more damage than you could ever imagine, but now you will pay for your insolence." Jack struggled against the officer's grip, but the alien's strength was too much. "You'll never win," Jack grunted, trying to break free. "Humans fight to survive. We'll never stop." The officer's laugh was cold and menacing. "Survival? You've barely begun to understand the truth. You're just a fleeting annoyance, a pest we can easily crush." Just then, a sharp metallic noise echoed in the hallway. Jack's heart sank as the officer turned to face the direction of the noise, momentarily distracted. That was his chance. With a burst of adrenaline, Jack twisted his body, slamming his elbow into the officer's side. The alien staggered back, momentarily losing his grip on Jack. Without hesitation, Jack grabbed his weapon and fired a shot into the officer's chest, sending the alien flying backward into the wall. The soldier collapsed, his body crumpling to the floor. Breathing heavily, Jack didn't waste a second. He turned and bolted toward the exit. His mind raced with the thought of the device he had planted, ticking down to its final moments. He had to get back to the surface dash now. The explosion, the final moments before. Jack reached the docking bay, where a blur of motion and chaos. The alarms blared louder now, the ship's defenses scrambling to respond to the breach. Jack's pulse was a drumbeat in his ears as he rounded the last corner, desperate for the shuttle bay. But just as he turned the corner, he was met with an unexpected sight. Korath, the alien Admiral himself, stood in front of the exit, flanked by several heavily armed soldiers. His cold, calculating eyes locked onto Jack's, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. Jack froze, his breath catching in his throat. Korath was the last being he expected to face here. "You thought you could defeat me," Korath said, his voice low but filled with menace. "You, a mere human, thought you could defeat my fleet and escape." Jack's heart thudded in his chest. He was trapped. There was nowhere to run, and Korath had him cornered. But Jack refused to let fear take over. He still had the device, and he had one last chance to destroy the alien fleet. "You'll never succeed," Jack said, his voice steady, even in the face of certain death. "The device I planted is already active. Your fleet is going to be crippled. You'll never win." Korath's eyes narrowed, but a faint smirk tugged at the corner of his lips. "You still don't understand, do you?" he sneered. "You think this is over. That simple device won't save you. It won't save your planet. You're too late." Before Jack could react, Korath pressed a button on a device strapped to his wrist. The lights in the hallway flickered, and the sound of a distant rumble echoed through the ship. The walls shook as the ship seemed to come alive with energy. "What's happening?" Jack demanded, his mind racing. Korath's smirk widened. "You've activated a failsafe, human. The device you planted, it's already been neutralized. You've made your final mistake." Just as Jack's heart sank, the ship's internal alarms blared louder than ever, signaling a catastrophic failure. The device Jack had planted, his only hope, had been stopped. The tension in the air grew thick with the realization. The battle for survival was far from over. The last hope. The ship's interior shook violently as the alarms blared louder than ever. Jack's heart raced, his mind frantically trying to process what Korath had just revealed. The alien Admiral's cruel smile only deepened the sense of impending doom. The human soldiers, who had risked everything to fight alongside Jack, now faced an enemy they couldn't even begin to understand. "You fool," Korath sneered, his eyes glinting with contempt. "You thought you could win with a mere device. The fate of your world is in my hands now. This ship is already set to annihilate your planet. It's over. You and your kind are nothing but an afterthought." Jack's hands trembled, the weight of the situation heavy on his chest. Desperation surged through him as he quickly glanced at the control panels, his mind racing. He had seen the failsafe code for the alien ships before. His training had prepared him for this moment, but this was unlike anything he had imagined. The alien technology was far more advanced than anything humanity had, and Jack knew that. Even if he could disable the failsafe, it would be at the cost of his own life. But one thing he knew for sure: he wasn't going to give up. Not now, not after everything humanity had already fought for. "Korath," Jack shouted, his voice filled with defiance. "You underestimate us. You think this is over because you've blocked my device, but you don't understand humanity. It's not about devices. It's about will. It's about what we're willing to sacrifice to survive." Korath raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "Will sacrifice? You've already sacrificed everything by trying to defeat me. You've lost, and you will watch your planet burn before you. This is the end for you, human." But Jack, with his mind running on overdrive, saw a single flicker of opportunity. He had one last option, an ancient human tactic that the aliens couldn't predict. The human fleet had developed a backup plan for moments, like an emergency code that could override the alien ship's systems, even if the main device was neutralized. He hadn't wanted to use it, but desperate times called for desperate measures. With every ounce of his focus, Jack lunged for the terminal on the wall. Koroth, realizing what Jack was attempting, started shouting orders to his soldiers. No, stop him. Jack's fingers flew across the keys, inputting the emergency override code. It was a long shot, and even if he succeeded, it would likely mean the end of his life. The alien systems weren't built to handle a complete shutdown from a human-created emergency protocol. They were designed to be impenetrable, but Jack was betting everything on the idea that the aliens had missed one critical weakness: human ingenuity. As Jack's hand hovered over the final command, the entire ship seemed to tremble again. The walls groaned with an unnatural vibration, and the lights flickered, casting long, eerie shadows in the room. The hum of the alien machinery around them intensified as the emergency override began to engage. Koroth's face twisted in rage as the alien ship began to malfunction. "What are you doing? You'll destroy us all," he screamed. Jack's eyes locked onto Koroth, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Sometimes you have to burn it all down to start again." The ship jolted violently as Jack slammed his hand on the final key. The entire control room flickered once, then went dark. Koroth's expression shifted from fury to shock as he realized what had just happened. The alien fleet's systems were now in complete shutdown. Their weapons were offline, their shields crippled. The invasion was, for all intents and purposes, over. As the sound of silence filled the room, Jack collapsed to his knees. He was exhausted, his body battered from the earlier confrontation, and his mind weary from the sheer force of the decisions he had made. He had won, but it had come at a price. Koroth, his eyes wide with disbelief, began to realize the true cost of underestimating humanity. "No, he whispered, as the reality of his defeat set in. "This can't be." The alien Admiral, for the first time in his life, felt what it was like to be truly helpless. His fleet, once the most powerful force in the galaxy, was now neutralized by a single human soldier. As the lights flickered back on, Jack managed to stand, leaning against the control panel for support. His heart still raced, but there was a deep sense of satisfaction that washed over him. He had stopped the invasion not with advanced technology, but with the pure will of humanity. Just as the alien forces began to retreat in confusion, Jack's voice echoed through the corridors. "This is where we draw the line. Earth is ours, and no one will take it from us."